Welcome to DNF. This is a Formula One podcast. I am Spencer Hall. That is Jessica Smetana. We are going to be discussing the aftermath of the Azerbaijan Grand Prix, aka the Baku battle for. There's no real nickname for this. I'm just freestyling, and it's not going well. Jessica, let's talk to you instead. Hi, how are you? And how did you enjoy the race?
I'm sleepy. It was a tough 6:45 a.m. wake up Eastern time after a long day of college football watching, but it was worth it for the rousing rendition of the Azerbaijani national anthem, which I wasn't like fully awake until I heard it, and then I was like, all right, here we go, we're starting. But you know what? There may not be a name for the race, like you said, but there is a sector called the Castle Sector that people just are like, yeah. Sector 2, the castle sector. And I like that about this race. There's just like, oh, yeah, there's a castle in that one. You got to go fast past the castle.
I think the best way to sum up Baku as a landscape, it's like if Houston sort of ate the city that they filmed Game of Thrones in, right? Like that's kind of what it looks like. If you had a magical place that also had a bunch of oil money and oil skyscrapers. It's one of the most fascinating backdrops for an F1 race, just from pure aesthetics, from visuals to me, right?
It's alarming how close the drivers are to the walls. I mean, it's obviously like you can make comparisons to Monaco and some of the other street circuits, but it is the most cramped looking circuit, I think, in Formula One. Watching them go like zip around these castles and like cityscapes is pretty crazy, but it ended up being, Spencer, I don't know about you, I thought pretty good race. Like if you're a fan of racing and overtaking and a little bit of tires and a little bit of gutting it out to the end, man, Oscar Piastri, he absolutely delivered in this one.
Yes. And you know it was a good race because Oscar Piastri described it as the most stressful afternoon of his life.
Okay, so let's start with this video of Oscar Piastri getting out of his car, getting out of his McLaren after the race, because I think if it's any indication of like how shaky he felt trying to hold on to the lead at the end there, it's pretty solid. He kind of like climbs out and stumbles and catches himself. Well, he almost fell backwards there.
Yeah, remember to celebrate though. Remember that's how you know he's a professional.
And then he jumps right into his garage, into their arms. Beautiful, beautifully done. Oscar Piastri with probably the race of his life. Like you said, the most stressful afternoon of his life, according to him. He defied his engineer's orders just to like chill when he did that overtake over Leclerc to take the lead, and then he had to kind of just sit there and gobble up as much clean air as he could and keep the lead over Leclerc, who was really, really pushing to try to overtake him at the end, and then ultimately couldn't do it because his tires were not up for the challenge. But I do think it's funny for Oscar to say it's the most stressful afternoon of his life, given what we've known about him as an F1 driver, which is that he is the F1 driver who Alpine once announced was their F1 driver 2 summers ago, and then he tweeted out, hey, that's not true. I imagine that afternoon was also pretty stressful, but I guess I can see how winning this race might have been a little bit more stressful.
You have to remember, he's 23. So the level of stress he's experienced, he hasn't even gotten to all the hallmarks of adulthood yet. He hasn't gotten to attempting to get children dressed in the morning for school, which to me is right up there with trying to pull a high-speed performance jet out of a flat spin. I haven't done that, but I'm pretty sure they're comparable in terms of levels of stress. So if it is the most stressful afternoon and he ends up winning an F1 race, Oscar, we got to recalibrate your stress levels here. We got to show you at least a little bit of what adult stress is.
That's fair, but if you're getting your kids ready for school, that'd be a stressful morning, not a stressful afternoon. So this is more like picking up your kids and then getting them ready for soccer practice. Maybe.
Yeah, on time.
Slicing up some oranges
when they don't want to go. Oh, please.
Oh, they forgot their shin guards. Now you got to go back and get them.
Forgot their shin. Forgot everything. Right. Oh, I'm not playing in goal today, but I wanted to play in goal, Dad. Nobody wants to play in goal. That's how you know I'm making up stuff.
No one. The thing that I think is, other than Oscar winning like his first F1 win in Hungary, like people wanted to put an asterisk next to, right? Because of the way that the way that he won, we didn't put an asterisk
No.
next to it, Spencer. We were like, no, he earned that. Even though maybe it would have made more sense for his teammate to win it, he still earned it. This one, by and away, obviously, just a phenomenal performance, a great move, and just very, very solid driving from him for the last stretch of the race. And like, there's not really anything you can say about this other than like he has really proven himself as a phenomenal driver this season.
At 23, with the composure of a much older driver, making a decision against his engineer's orders, and then, and I do believe this is the word, dominating the second half of the race. Dominating it.
And then like almost falling backwards off of his car, but then catching himself. And that was the story of the day for him. And I really liked how after he won, his radio message was so calm. Like he was like just completely straight faced, like, wow, that was the most stressful afternoon of my life. Thank you. I appreciate it. Like very little emotion, but you could tell he was like obviously really excited, but he was just so calm about it, which was pretty impressive.
This makes him, I sort of think Oscar Piastri is, our secret Scandinavian, right? Like, how are you feeling? Well, at the moment, I would like to die. And I am more worried than I have ever been in my life. While showing no indication of being any of that. Yes, just a preternaturally mature, chill, and composed individual is Oscar Piastri. Can we get to the runoff effect of Oscar Piastri finishing this race in first and his teammate Lando Norris, I believe, finishing in fourth? That combination of finishes combined with Red Bull's lackluster performance here. Drum roll, please. McLaren has taken over the lead in the Constructors' Championship. Oh my God.
Yeah. So I thought maybe the mistake of the weekend was going to be what happened to Lando in qualifying, because he got sent out of Q1 because there was a yellow flag because Esteban Ocon was driving slowly, and he was really upset about it. He said it was super unfair and he didn't get to finish his lap. And so he didn't get to qualify where he probably would have qualified, which would have been, near the front of the grid. And so big missed opportunity for Lando this weekend after that happens. And I guess we can discuss like whether it was really fair or not, or whether it was his fault. But turns out actually the bigger mistake was what happened with Sergio Perez towards the end of the race, which not only sort of nuked his own race, but also took off a lot of points from a really solid Red Bull showing between both drivers. Like not solid for either one in particular, but both drivers were in, the front five in this race.
A move so confusing that Carlos Sainz immediately afterwards sounded like he had just woken up. I don't mean was concussed. I'm sure it was a hard knock, but no, he sounded genuinely confused as to how any of that could happen on a level exceeding the usual confusion of running an F1 machine in a race. It just a baffling crash, taking out both Perez and Sainz down the home stretch.
So were you surprised that the race stewards investigated and said that this was a racing incident and that they didn't really assign fault to either driver?
Not how's this? The only way that I am surprised that they did that is because it was so random. It was so absolutely random that it felt so random that even putting motive to it seemed weird. If you told me that it was completely accidental, I believe that, because nobody would do that on purpose. Not like Checo's trying to run him off the track.
Yeah.
Not like Checo's trying to pass him. He just smashed into him. And it doesn't get more accidental than that.
Yeah, they were so close together. So this was after Checo had tried to overtake the Ferraris, and then Carlos came out ahead of him by like half of a car length, coming out of, I think it was the exit of turn 2. And so Carlos knew that Checo was like inside and to the left of him, and they were so close together. And so Carlos said that he was following the racing line, which sort of like naturally drifts to the left. And Checo was sort of following the straight and going straight. And so they just so gently like hit each other. And then Carlos Sainz's car goes like straight left in front of Checo. So I think people watching it live maybe thought that Carlos made a really aggressive like left-hand turn to
Mhm.
cut off Checo. But if you watch it slowed down, that's not really what happened. So there was a lot of like initial reaction from people watching that was like, what the hell is Carlos Sainz doing? That was so dangerous, blah, blah, blah. I don't think that, yeah, I think that his left-hand turn was after he got like knocked forward, and they both obviously spun into the wall, race over for both of them, which was a huge bummer because the racing that happened prior to that point was like electric. Like they were going wheel to wheel around these super tight corners. So that was a huge bummer, but I guess I'm not really surprised they said it was a racing incident because I guess the steward said that like neither driver did anything erratic or crazy. It just happened that they were so close together that 1 millimeter of space wasn't enough and they hit each other. Or I guess Checo sort of hit Carlos.
Checo kind of just ran into the side of Carlos. One of the stranger top tens of the season. If you're just looking at who finished in the points, and I'm not just saying that because Red Bull didn't win. That's frankly that's getting to be pretty normal. No, I mean the appearance of some points bandits, newcomers, and people who ended up in unexpected places. This is, and I swear this is a compliment. It is a vulture season for George Russell. When things get weird and people lose ground, George Russell shows up to like a dog on the street, picks up the dropped hamburger, right? Like he
Yes.
is there to take the pie off the windsill. He is there to get. He's the early bird that indeed gets the second worm, or in this case, the third one, and a podium. All George Russell does is kind of show up where he's not supposed to be. And
He just
in
ended
this
up on the
case,
podium somehow. Like he was not,
yeah,
podium was not really in his sights, and then all of a sudden it was, and he got it, and he was as surprised as we were, Spencer.
right.
But that's called being in the right place at the right time, keeping your nose clean, and just keeping your head down, racing your race. Don't race anyone else's race. Maybe someone in front of you will do something a little silly, and then you'll end up with a lot of points. And so, hats off to George Russell. Second time this season that some ridiculous crash has led to him finishing on a podium.
Yeah, if you see a ridiculous crash, do you know who's smiling inside their helmet? George Russell. He's going to take advantage. He's going to nick a podium slot from someone who probably should have had it instead. But you know what? They didn't, so I can't say that. Um, Charles Leclerc, in true form, losing his pole again after winning pole. This is just a pattern because Ferrari can't keep up in the straights. Max in fifth, which still feels weird to me. I know we're now in a different era. This is now the papaya reign, and we're going to have to get used to that. It still feels a little weird. Alonso in sixth. Speaking of people who are very good at vulturing spots when they have an opportunity, Fernando Alonso still got it. Still has the ability to pop up and eat when you least expect him. And then in the last four slots, not surprising to see Lewis Hamilton there, but out of the last four slots, Alex Albon in seventh, Franco Colapinto, congratulations, points,
Yeah.
baby, for
I mean, he had a
Williams.
great qualifying. Qualifying was just
Mhm.
it was weird, Spencer. It was a little weird, but yeah, double points for Williams in Azerbaijan. Didn't see that one
That's
coming.
again weird ass top 10, but congratulations to Williams. Even if you won't see these congratulations because you've blocked me. It's fair.
And you mean that sincerely.
I do. And also, I mean this sincerely. If you've blocked somebody, that person probably deserved it. And in 10th, Ollie Bearman. Let's just, yeah, everybody get in. Whole clown car, weird results. Haas getting points out of Baku. So, congratulations to all on their weird ass finishes. The points count, strange
Yeah,
or not.
they do count. Another thing that was important about the Sergio Perez Carlos Sainz incident. Ferrari's now not that far behind McLaren in the fight for the constructors championship. So are we going to possibly look at a third place Red Bull team? I'm looking at the points results right now through the Azerbaijan Grand Prix. McLaren's in first place with 476. Red Bull 456. Ferrari's at 425. So they are very much still in that. Spencer, not good. That's not good for Red Bull.
No. And it is wild to hear the way that Red Bull talked about the car after this race and to hear the way that Max
And
Verstappen
during
talked
the
about the
race.
car.
They don't like that thing.
No, no, just a sudden displeasure with the machine and with them having radio communications where you hear them talking about, well, let's make the best of the car. I I'm sorry. I thought that thing was the SR-71 just, 3 months ago. I thought this was the pinnacle of engineering uh in the automotive sense. We're in a completely different universe now.
Yeah, it is such a bummer that things didn't work out better for Lando this weekend because I think the Red Bull has been like consistently like Max in that kind of place where he's behind the McLarens and the Ferraris,
Hmm.
and maybe a Mercedes or two. And so all Lando has to do is just finish ahead of him by enough points that he can build up that margin or eliminate that margin, I should say, between him and Max. And so far, like it hasn't really happened yet. He hasn't been able. It's just like he's he's trying to win the race, yes, but he's really just trying to beat Max, even though Max isn't winning the races, and he can't do that. And it must be very frustrating because it's kind of right there. And there's not a lot of races left, Spencer. I think we're going to Singapore next weekend, and then another little break, and then back in the U.S. a couple more North American races, and then like we're almost done. There's only a couple more after that. So we're getting kind of down to the wire, and like it's not like an impossible. It
No.
seemed impossible maybe a few weeks ago for Lando to do it, but it's not impossible. Like Max, we've been waiting to see like, okay, well maybe this race, the Red Bull will be set up in a way in which it'll be more suitable and they will be able to run it out in front and it'll be faster. But the McLaren is just much faster. Like Oscar Piastri has said it time and time again,
Hmm.
clean air is king. That car in clean air cannot be beaten.
Monster.
And I mean, Lando had a good race. He was able to overcome a pretty bad start and finish in the top. I think it was what, fourth, which
Hmm.
obviously a couple cars in front of him crashed. That helps too. But like, still really fast. Still had a good race. Still got solid points. But Max is right there behind him in fifth. And so it's just like another opportunity where McLaren has to be perfect if they want their driver to win the championship. And one of their drivers was, but the other one was not.
That's where I'm leading you. This is where I go, okay, you're Zach Brown. I am giving you questions you cannot answer, but I'm still going to ask them, Jessica.
Hmm.
You have an opportunity to win the constructors here, obviously. You're currently in the lead, and I think given current performance, it's an engineering sport. Let's just grade this little curve. You keep doing this, you're going to win. So you're probably going to win the constructors championship if you continue this level of performance. Now, how much of a concern is the drivers championship to you? You're about the team. That's it. You're about the team. And right now, Max Verstappen is still sitting atop a manageably, you can overcome this. Like it's manageable. But you're going to need to, at one point to one driver or another if you're concerned about the drivers' championship. What would what would you do in that situation?
Well, I think is it fair to say it's like team specific who cares the most about which championship? Like I think McLaren's team would be very happy with the constructors championship. They should also be trying really hard for Lando to win the drivers championship, but I get the sense that like the constructors championship would be like especially given where they were last year, like running in last place, and Oscar Piastri even talked about this after he won this weekend. Like the steps forward that they've taken as a team since he started with McLaren is just quite insane, to be honest. It seems like they like really want the constructors championship and are putting all their eggs in that basket. They're like, we just want both of our drivers to get as many points as possible because constructors championship, more money, more time to test the car and all that, wind tunnel, et cetera, et cetera. Um, and like we're good with that, but like they should obviously want both because it would be better for business and just better for obvious reasons to win both if you can.
Mm-hmm.
But I think Red Bull's like, yeah, we just want Max to win the drivers championship. Like we, or at least that's my impression. Like that's the thing that they care the most about is having the best driver in the world win, his fourth consecutive championship.
Yeah. This
I don't
is
know.
which he might do under some of the least satisfying circumstances possible
I
for
can't. I
that
don't think you could
championship.
say that after last season. I think last season was less satisfying, right?
You mean for everybody or for him? Because I'm talking about for Red Bull. Like
Okay.
if they end up finishing, second or heaven forbid, even third in the constructors, but Max pulls down a drivers' championship with that team on the verge of a an era-ending implosion in terms of management and engineering. I mean, that's going to be a little bit like cake at a funeral, right? Like it'll be funny to watch them balance that, which is, yay, Max! Everybody's, signing their NDAs,
Leaving.
heading
Yeah.
out the door, right? It'd be like eating
Yeah.
cake. It's like eating your own cake at a funeral, right? You're like, it's my birthday. I'm still going to eat cake. Don't care.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe you're right. It's hard to gauge who would be happy for whom in that scenario. You're right.
Yeah.
And also I could be totally wrong. They might want to win someone will probably yell at me for being wrong, but
They might
um
they might genuinely care. It'll still feel strange, I
it will.
think. Even at like just imagine Max sitting by the coffin of the Red Bull dynasty, still going like, "No, I'm sorry. This red velvet's good. I gotta eat it. It's my birthday. I still get a wish. I still get the free cupcake when I go out to eat, and they all sing to me, even if it's a sad day for everybody else." Um,
I think it will feel less satisfying for fans, certainly.
mhm,
Especially if McLaren and Ferrari both finish ahead or at least very close to
mhm,
Red Bull. At this rate, it looks like McLaren probably will finish ahead because both of their drivers are doing very, very good.
yeah.
But I think it will feel very unsatisfying for fans to not get a sort of drivers' championship showdown in the coming weeks after, especially after last season. But then after like the second half of this season felt really invigorating and close. So yeah, it would be really interesting for that to happen, and it's very plausible that that will be the final result here.
It really might be. And that's before we even anticipate how the papaya rules are going to end up working out in the
Oh,
competition.
oh, the papaya rules.
The papaya rules. I like that it implies that they actually have a fixed set of rules when they've already gone back and forth on them from race to race, right? Like Hungary just might be a start of what we're seeing in terms of please let your teammate by.
Yeah,
Please do not crash them. Like that's all still down the line too in terms of possibility. We are coming up on Singapore.
yes.
Singapore.
And we are also coming up on potentially a very highly anticipated guest making a return to DNF.
Oh, longtime friend of the program, you say?
Yeah.
N-
They may still cancel on us, so we will be vague. But
Yes, will be vague, but we will say that no one brings the naked truth like this guest.
that's a great hint.
Yes. I'm excited about Singapore. This is the if you are a big fan of city circuits, if you're a big fan of the cityscape track, if you will, I am, which I am. Singapore is awesome. It's under the lights. It is this is, I think, a particularly cruel bit of scheduling by F1 to put Singapore where it is on the calendar because yes, this is probably as late as you could run it given the schedule, and you need to run it as late as possible. It's just going to be hot no matter when you run it, but putting it at the end when everybody's starting to really feel the fatigue of the season
Yeah.
and it's a really long road trip and it's grueling and it's going to be like 130 degrees inside your suit in the car. It's brutal. The heat and the humidity, even at night. This is for the drivers. If you want to see the, hey, are these guys athletes? This is the one where you can just point to somebody and go, watch that. Go
Yeah.
open your weather app. Look at what it's going to be on the track in Singapore, which again is like a stone's throw from the equator and go look at how much fun they're having. It's
They're
none.
gonna lose like 7 pounds just of sweat just from walking to their cars. It's so I mean, and I read there also might be thunderstorms there because yeah,
Yeah.
that happens. I mean, I can say this because I've heard drivers in F1 compare the Singapore climate to Miami, and
Hmm.
I have been unfortunate. I actually happened to be at the Miami Grand Prix circuit the other night for the Dolphins-Bills game. I was standing there on the track. That's where people tailgate now for Dolphins games.
Still on the track.
The parking lot, yeah, the parking lot like overlaps with the track. So I was actually standing on the curb at one of the turns on the turnpike side of the stadium doing a hit for DraftKings last week, Spencer. And it was so hot. There was just like sweat dripping down my face. And that was at like 6 o'clock at night.
Yep.
So yeah, this is just going to be super brutal and it should be fun for us to watch, hopefully. And Lando Norris, do some good stuff in qualifying.
Listen, we would like to see. We would like to see.
We want you to win. We want the excitement.
I want to see as thrilling a finish as I possibly can. And so everyone can play along at home. You set up your TV, set up your screen, whatever your screen is inside your car. If you want to get a feeling of what it's like to be in the cockpit, go get your garden hose, put a sprinkler on it. Okay. Turn up the heat turn on your car, turn up the heat as high as it'll go. Don't crack a window, just enough to get the hose in there. Put the sprinkler, turn it on. Okay. And then try to watch the race through that. That's your Singapore GP simulator.
Well, I think that's it, Spencer. We're gonna be back next week to talk more about that. Hey, shout out to Lando, good teammate, helped Oscar win the race. Oscar, great race. Sergio Perez, Carlos Sainz, nice try. Do better next time. Everyone else, good job. Fair assessment.